You know what separates losers from winners in this life? It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even motivation. It's discipline. Pure, unrelenting, unwavering discipline. And if you're anything like me, you probably heard all the motivational speakers telling you that you need to get pumped up, you need to feel the fire, you need to wait for the perfect moment when the stars align and you feel ready to conquer the world. Well, I'm here to tell you that's complete garbage. I'm Jesse, and I've been around the block more than a few times. I'm a retired infantry paratrooper deployed with the 82nd Airborne Division and the 1st Infantry Division. Multiple combat deployments to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. We saw real combat, not the Hollywood version. I've been a father for over 20 years, married for over 20 years. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and academy owner, and with my partners up here in Alaska. And I've learned something that most people never figure out. And it's the simple truth that motivation is a lie, but discipline is everything. Let me paint your picture. It's 0300. You're on some fob in Afghanistan. You've been awake for 36 hours already. Your gear weighs more than most people can bench press. The sand is hot. It's in everything. It's in all your gear. Your water tastes like plastic rubber hoses. And you're about to go on another patrol where people are actively trying to kill you. You think I was motivated in that moment? You think I woke up feeling pumped, ready to take on the world? Hell no. But you know what I had? Discipline. The discipline to get up, put one foot in front of the other, check my gear, check my teammates, check my squad, look after my brothers, and do the job that needed to be done. And that's the thing. That's the thing about discipline that separates it from motivation. Is motivation is an emotion, and emotions are unreliable. They come and go like the weather. One day you're feeling unstoppable, the next day you can barely get out of bed. But discipline is a system. It's a framework. It's something you build brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice. And once you build it strong enough, it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter if you're tired. It doesn't matter if you're scared, if you're frustrated at the world, or if you're just completely burned out, because discipline is what will carry you through. I remember getting that 3-day notice to deploy to Syria. 3 days. Most people get more notice when they're changing jobs or moving apartments, but that's the military for you. Especially when you're working with special operations teams like I did on several of my deployments, but especially on my 3-day notice deployment to Syria and Iraq. I had 3 days to get my affairs and orders, which, like a good squad leader, they already were. 3 days to mentally prepare for months of uncertainty in a combat zone. You think motivation is going to get you through something like that? You think you can just psych yourself up for that kind of pressure and responsibility? Not a chance. But here's what discipline taught me in those moments. Discipline taught me that preparation isn't about feeling ready. It's about being ready, regardless of how you feel. When that call came in, I didn't need to find my motivation. I didn't need to give myself a pep talk or wait for the right mindset. I actually had to cancel my orders to Alaska, where I'm at now, and tell my wife that I'm going on this deployment with my men because they need me. I used discipline that I had built up over a decade to get me through that deployment and get the job done and get all my men home. That discipline, and when it kicked in automatically. My gear was always maintained, so it wasn't a big deal. A bag, B bag, C bag. You're always where you need to be. It's too easy. Mental preparation is a constant conditional, right? You need that all the time. You can't just be like, I'm going to not be mentally prepared today. You have to be mentally prepared all the time. And if you're anything like me, you've probably noticed that life doesn't care about your schedule or your feelings when it decides to test you the hardest. Life doesn't wait for you to feel motivated before it throws challenges your way. Whether it's a family crisis, a business emergency, a health scare, or just the daily grind of being a responsible adult and trying to drive through traffic to get to work. Life demands that you show up and perform when performance matters, not when you feel like performing. And this is where jiu-jitsu comes in. It doesn't matter. This is where it comes in for everybody. You don't have to be a soldier. You don't have to be, a jiu-jitsu master, but this is where jiu-jitsu comes in, is the understanding discipline versus motivation. On the mats, you're going to face opponents who are stronger, faster, more technical, or just plain tougher than you are. You're going to get submitted. You're going to get dominated. You're going to have days where nothing works and everything hurts. Motivation will tell you to quit, to make excuses, to wait until you feel better or more confident. But discipline tells you you need to get in there, tap, and learn from your mistakes and make it more methodical, less energetic. I've been training jiu-jitsu and teaching jiu-jitsu for years now. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that the students who succeed aren't the ones who showed up when they were motivated. They're the ones who show up, especially when they're not motivated. They're the ones who come to class when they're tired from work, when they're sore from the last training session, or when they just got off a red-eye flight and they just got back in town for whatever reason, because we're in a transient state here in Alaska. When they'd rather be literally doing anything else, those are the students who eventually get their black belts, their brown belts, that are winning these competitions because they understand that growth happens in the space between motivation. It's like firefights. There are minutes and hours, sometimes days, between weeks and months of nothing. And this applies to fatherhood too. And brother, let me tell you, being a father over 20 years has taught me more about discipline than any military or martial arts ever could. Kids don't care if you're motivated to be a good parent. They don't care if you're motivated to take them to school or get them to school on time or get them fed. They need consistency, reliability, and presence. And not just when you're feeling fatherly, but especially when you're stressed and tired, because they're probably stressed and tired too. When you're overwhelmed and dealing with your problems, your kids are overwhelmed and dealing with them too. I can't count the number of times I had to discipline myself as a parent to be present for my children when every fiber of my being was to check out and go take a nap. Here's what I learned. The moments when you least feel like being engaged, patient, or a loving father, those are the moments when your children need you the most, right? And discipline taught me that parenting isn't a good feeling like being a good dad. It's about choosing to be a good dad regardless of how you feel. And it's the same concept in marriage. 21 years of marriage has shown me that love isn't just a feeling. And yeah, it's been 21 years now. I know it surprises myself. But love is a series of disciplined choices. It's choosing to listen when you'd rather talk. It's choosing to serve when you'd rather be served. It's choosing to stay committed when things get difficult instead of looking for an easy way to exit the relationship. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Discipline is love. When you discipline yourself to be the husband and your wife needs, even when you don't feel like it, that's love in action. When you discipline yourself and keep your commitments to show up consistently and do the hard work of maintaining a relationship, that's not obligation, that's love. And if you're anything like me, you've probably figured out that we take pressure over comfort every single time. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort is where dreams go to die. Comfort is where potential gets wasted and excuses get made. But pressure creates diamonds, baby. Pressure reveals character. Pressure shows who you really are and what you're made of. And your character flaws will come out. If you mistreat women and children, it's going to come out when the pressure gets put on in here. We're going to know. In business, this principle becomes absolutely critical. I've seen too many entrepreneurs who wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect motivation to make their move. They want everything to be comfortable and easy before they take action. But successful business owners understand that we take pressure over comfort because that's where real opportunities exist. That's where your competitors are not willing to go. That's where the rewards are. They're waiting for those disciplined enough to embrace the discomfort. And I could talk about running the BJJ academies with my partners, but I'm going to talk about one thing. When I ran my first business, it was a landscaping business back. The stuff that made me the most money was some of the sloppiest and hardest work that they couldn't find anyone to do. I was backfilling under trailers because I was landscaping this mobile home park, and they wanted me to backfill under their trailers. And unless you have some kind of, rotating band going or something, there's only one way to really get dirt under those trailers with low crawl spaces. And you got to manually crawl under there and dump that dirt. I did this, and several of my days were over $2,000 days because I would sell them the dirt and I would get it backfilled. I just couldn't get enough trailers stacked up to keep that going. There was not enough business to keep me going doing that, or else I would probably still be doing that today. But those were some of the most highest grossing, highest profit days because it was over $2,000 a day in profit. Right? But motivation doesn't give you consistency. Consistency is what builds empires. Consistency builds character. But running this BJJ Academy with my partners has taught me that consistency beats intensity every single day of the week. You can't have the most intense training sessions of your life. Push yourself to absolute exhaustion and feel like you've accomplished something incredible. But if you don't show up again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, that intensity is worthless. I'd rather have a student who shows up 3 days a week for 2 years than a student who shows up 6 days a week for 2 months and then burns out and never comes back. This is the trap that most people fall into with motivation. Motivation gives you intensity. It gives you those explosive bursts of energy and enthusiasm to make you feel like you can conquer the world. But motivation doesn't give you consistency. And consistency is what builds empires. Consistency is what builds character. Consistency is what separates the professionals from the amateurs. We train today so we don't quit tomorrow. That's not just a saying. That's a philosophy that has guided every important decision in my life. Every time I didn't feel like going to PT in the military, I reminded myself that we train today so we don't quit tomorrow. Every time I wanted to skip training on the mats when I'm preparing for a tournament, we got a plan laid out. Every time I wanted to take the easy path when it comes to something. Anytime I wanted to be mediocre at being a father or husband, I remember that today's discipline is tomorrow's freedom. The thing about training, you don't feel like it, is that you're not just building physical strength or technical skill. You're building the mental toughness that will carry you through the moments when quitting seems like the only option. You're building the discipline that will keep you moving forward when motivation is burned out and it's abandoned you because your emotions are in turmoil. You're building character that will define who you are when nobody is watching and nothing external is forcing you to perform. That's all I got today. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I'm Jesse Jiu-Jitsu, husband, father, retired infantry paratrooper, BJJ Academy owner with my partners up here in Alaska. I'm a free man.